Hey everybody, this is Teigeler. Hope you're doing well out there. I'd like to take you through the process for my Giants in the Mist. It's a personal illustration I did just to kind of work on some of my water technique. That was the final illustration, and we're going to start laying in some water and some sky here. I haven't worked with a lot of watercolor. Occasionally, I'm kind of heavy of hand, and so I like to get in the darks pretty quick. Kind of a little bit of sketching here, getting some mountains laid in. I had this vision in my head of this misty mountainscape, and the giant kind of standing amongst this. There's a number of illustrators that I sort of emulated off of this, and I'm sure if you scroll through the same Instagram art feeds that I do, that you'll be able to pick them out and find them pretty quickly. But they're much more skilled at this than I am. Their ability to make the mist kind of look more misty is much better than me. But every time I work on a piece of art, I'm working on something in some sort of technique, learning more and more about how the medium works, about how the brushes work. And the overall composition, I think, is becoming more and more important to me. I don't feel like I've mastered composition yet, but I'm starting to figure out the principles, and that's what's amazing about art. There's an infinite amount of learning that can go on, and for instance, these trees, I've sort of done trees like these many times in the past, but definitely not with these solid dry, what they call dry watercolors. These are Winsor Newton watercolors, by the way. And so the trees kind of turn out differently with watercolor than they do with ink. Ink is, especially on a dry paper, what you put down is what you get. And it typically stays. It doesn't bleed, it doesn't run. But with watercolor, I found that it really does take on a presence of its own, depending on the amount of water that you lay down with it. And so these trees I struggled on just a little bit. But then I realized, I think, here about this process, that, these foreground trees were not as important to be perfect trees, but to lend that foreground darkness. And I think that was super important for this project. And as you see, I struggle and keep getting darker and darker with them, and trying to get them to be part of the foreground and not part of the middle ground. And that's super important for the overall composition here. So here the guy comes in, it's I wanted him just to be kind of looming, standing. It's one of those things where I wasn't exactly sure what position. I hadn't sketched him out ahead of time, and I knew I wanted first off to start off with really super dark at the top, where he was all the way out and poked out of the mists, and then as you add more water to the watercolor, it starts to fade and starts to blend, and that's really one of the unique qualities of working with watercolor over ink. I've worked with a lot of ink washes, but to get this kind of variation just by adding a little water to the almost dry, darker watercolor, and to get it to be able to fade like you do, it's a super technique that you can do with watercolor that is much better done with watercolor than ink, and trust me, I haven't mastered it by any stretch of the means. As I got into it, I realized that I probably got the scale just a little wrong for the giant. He'd be pretty monstrous, but it works all right for a practice piece, and I learned a lot. Here I've got him looking a little bit skyward to sort of work on the mystery of the piece. I think in my mind, a lot of the times I put so much detail into pieces that there's no mystery left. And correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think that I need to work more on leaving some mystery so that the viewer can kind of make the determination of what's actually going on in the piece. You know, what's he looking for? What's he looking at? And trust me, it took me a lot of control to not stick something in the sky, because I really, really wanted to put like a big dragon or something in the sky, but I really wanted to work on, you know, the viewer using their imagination on what was going on in the scene a little bit. Here I'm just dabbling around, really putting in and really trying to concentrate on getting those trees both dark and light, and there you can see a close-up of them, and it just it turned out better than I expected, honestly, with watercolor, because of the control. Not perfect by any means, but learned a lot. I think the mist really looks good there in the bottom part of the piece, and I hope to do a little bit more of these. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this and want to see more, please like and subscribe. It helps a lot. Hey, have a good day.